So I've gone for a hike at the Middlesex Fells. It's just outside of Boston. I've been dying to go get outdoors, go for a walk and get some inspiration. I biked here. I don't remember how many miles it is. I plan to spend, I don't know, an hour or two here walking and brainstorming some descriptions of nature. I say I did NaNoWriMo last month, but I didn't successfully do it. I got to 50,000 words, but only because I had already written 25,000 words. So I'm trying to get back into writing because the last week a lot was going on, and that was the thing that slipped through the cracks. I had workers, electricians in my apartment almost the entire month because our electricity is not functioning properly, and it was very distracting. And that last week I got a paid writing gig, so I put the novel on the back burner. I'm writing a historical fiction novel about the Lewis and Clark expedition, and I'm really excited about it, and I think it's going to be interesting. I got really into Lewis and Clark going on a road trip a few years ago through Minnesota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, back to Minnesota. I was going on a pseudo cross-country trip. I call it a cross-country trip because it took as long as a cross-country trip, but we did not get from sea to shining sea. My mom had never been to North Dakota before. She'd been to all of the other lower 48 states, so it had been on our bucket list for a while to go do that together. And while I was there, I kept on passing by these Lewis and Clark monuments and historical sites. And I had a vague interest in them before, but God, I'm sorry, I'm getting close to the highway. We'll get through it. So I've been vaguely interested in them before, particularly Meriwether Lewis, because I'd seen an episode of Drunk History where I think it was Georgia Hardstark from I Know Her From My Favorite Murder, and Allie Ward. I know her from Ologies podcast. Regardless, they did a Lewis and Clark segment on Drunk History. So I learned about Meriwether Lewis's struggles with mental health through that, and despite it being comedy, I got really interested in it because one of my favorite things about history is humanizing historical figures, because if you look at the historical facts, I don't know, I feel like we have a habit of thinking of historical people as these legends and not as actual human beings. And I love it when I discover things about historical figures that make them into people for me. So I found out through the Lewis and Clark segment in Drunk History that Meriwether Lewis killed himself. And it made me think, I think I'm running out of place to walk here, so I'm going to turn around. It made me think about how, when I learned about the Lewis and Clark expedition, it's about 2 sentences, 3 sentences. Lewis and Clark expedition happened because Jefferson did the Louisiana Purchase, end of story. Or Lewis and Clark, blah, 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 Sacagawea, blah, 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 end of story. So when I was out in that country and feeling really inspired by how beautiful the scenery is and the prairies and the mountains out there, and I kept on seeing these, I guess landmarks, but like natural wonders, I guess, that they saw and recorded for the first time. And I'm not saying that no one had ever seen it before, because I know that that's not true. Native Americans saw it before, but as far as what is written in history books and the stuff that we have recorded and mapped, they were the first ones to write the descriptions down for Western society to understand, and the first people to map it. And you think about exploration and the concept that something being new for you can be just as much of an adventure as something that's new to the entire world. So I read the journals first because first person account, important. And then I read Stephen Ambrose's Undaunted Courage, which is, I would say, riveting. I have heard the critique that he has a habit of speculating. However, because I'm writing historical fiction, I also have a habit of speculating. I read the journals of Lewis and Clark and decided as I was reading them that I was going to write a historical fiction about the Lewis and Clark expedition to explore the story from a different perspective than we usually get it, because when we talk, like I said, when we talk about Lewis and Clark, it seems like these two men and a Native American woman crossed the continent. And in reality, it was something like 24 men. And it wasn't 24 white men. It was, God, I don't want to do the math, 20 white men? And then a black man and 3 Native American men. Not to mention, they had more than one Native American guide on the way across the country that just weren't a part of their party for quite as long. And I really like the idea of giving credit where credit's due and acknowledging the fact that there was more diversity in the story than we generally think. And I guess I like the idea of trying to find the most authentic version of that story that I can, and confronting my own issues with being a white woman and seeing all of the stuff that historically has been done to people of color, and how I've coped with that, and not just coped with that, but tried to better myself, because I know that even though I'm trying, I'm part of the problem. Here's Pat. It's a cairn. One of the things that quarantine has made me realize about myself is that I need to have adventures and I need to explore to make myself, it's gonna sound dramatic, but feel alive, feel like I'm not wasting my life, because I don't know, even if it's something I've seen before, there's something about being under the trees in the open air, seeing new, I guess, natural wonders, especially new animals, and I feel like I could talk about my last cross-country trip in extreme detail. I love moss. It's so pretty. Oh, look at how soft it looks. Ooh, that's too close. This is probably going to be a shorter video than I planned because I brought an extra battery, but it is not charged. So I was pretty sure that I had charged everything with the one that was in the camera. I don't know if I just died because I haven't used it in a while or what. It hasn't been that long. But it is what it is. So I'm gonna find a nice place. I'm definitely gonna stop rambling. And I have a sip.